Hi guys, welcome to PT53 Game 3. This is an ordering game, but there's an extra element in here that I think makes it best to handle as an advanced ordering game rather than trying to keep track of this confessed, not confessed stuff in your head or anything like that. Better to just build an extra row and keep track of it there. So let's backtrack for a moment, talk about the basic setup here. We've got these 7 suspects and they're going to be questioned in a row. So we know there's an ordering component here. So establish your base down here of the 7 times that these people are going to be questioned consecutively. Only one can be questioned at once. And then these are our suspects up here. We have 7 of them, so it's a 1-to-1 ordering situation. Fairly straightforward so far. But then we get this thing about confessed or not confessed. So let's handle that in the classic advanced ordering fashion, make a whole row where we keep track of that. So this row can be the confess or not confess row. And up there, we'll mark whether they did or didn't. And then down here, we'll be keeping track of the suspects right here. So our actual game pieces are popping into this lower row. All right, for the rules, T was questioned on day 3, so we just drop him right in there. And now the suspect on day 4 didn't confess, so put a big crossed out C up there to show that they didn't confess. Some alternative ways that you might see to handle this is you could use like subscript. Say you got rid of the whole top row and just kept track of it down there. But I always like to keep things as consistent as possible, so I go with the advanced ordering template that you're very used to here. Okay, next rule is really simple. We have W, then S order here. S is questioned after W. Next one, both X and V get questioned after Z. So far, there's not too much we could do. We could, tell that W doesn't go here, all that stuff. S doesn't go here. But I'm going to hold off on that and get a better sense of the shape of the game. Now we're told that no suspects confess after W. I'm not quite sure how to write that, but after W, confess, this whole thing is out, So hopefully we'll get a better sense of how that works in the game with our next rule. And our next rule is that exactly 2 suspects confess after T. So if 2 confess after T and no one can confess after W, that all of a sudden presents big problems for where we can place W. So you can imagine maybe we put W here and these 2 confess. Well, then S has to be left hanging off the end, and that's no good. So it looks to me like the only way to get 2 confessing after T is make these 2 confess. W is one of them, and then no one confesses after W. So that puts W right at the end, and then S is smack dab at the end here. And that's really the only way to do this. So the sooner you see that this has to be the order for the game, the better off you are. So now we know where a bunch of variables are. The only thing we don't know is where X, Y, Z, and V are. And they're fairly well governed by this rule. So Z could never be, say, here, because then there's no room for X and V. You could draw scenarios at this point. Try it with Z in first and see what happens. Try it with Z in second and see what happens. But I just feel like there's not enough going on here. I'm going to be able to handle any changes in the order very quickly. I can just work with this diagram. So let's jump on to the questions. Okay, for 12, we just need something that could be true. X questioned on day 1. That's not possible ever with here, with this rule here, so we got to cross that out. How about V on day 2? Can we do V on day 2? Well, it works with this rule. We got Z here, and then, you just have X or Y here, or switch them around. It wouldn't really matter. We don't have many restrictions about those 2. So this should work fine, and B is our right answer. And remember, as usual, we're working right in the diagram. You would be making your own little mini diagrams next to the question where you do the work. Leave the main diagram untouched, but for space reasons, we just work in the main diagram here. Okay, so 13. If Z was the second suspect to confess, so we just pop Z in here and we know they're confessing. Remember, Z can't go any further back than 2, so the only way to do this is like this. then all of the following statements could be true except, okay, could T confess? Yeah, it looks like T could confess. You just pop the C in there. It doesn't violate any of the rules, so this is out. How about T did not confess? Yeah, it looks possible again, so that's out. How about V did not confess? So yeah, why not just put V here, X here, and then Y going here? That looks fine. So it could be true, and we got to cross it off. How about X confessed? Yeah, we put X here and V here, and that works out fine. Y pops into here. So we arrive at E by elimination. Let's take a look here and see why it doesn't work. Y did not confess. Well, Y has to be here, and that's an inference I didn't make quite yet, but was an easy enough one to make. You're stuck with X and V back here, right? They have to be after Z. That throws Y in here, so Y has to confess. Okay, for 13, we have a new rule, so just make sure you know it's just for this question. Y's question after V, but before X. So this is all going to form this nice long chain, Z, V, Y, X, and you just have to write that in right here. So we just draw that chain in right here, and that's it. Our order's fixed. Now going to the questions, what could be true? V does not confess. Yeah, it looks like that'll be fine with the order here, so A is our right answer. If you check, everything else doesn't work with this setup. Okay, 15, who has to be questioned before T is questioned? We know already from prior discussion that that's Z. They're either in 1 or 2. It would have been worthwhile to just draw that rule in, put Z here. You could do it down here, Z, Z, something like that. Or if you want to do it up here, it might get a little messier, but Z, Z. That rule was set in stone from the beginning because of this right here. Z has 2 after it, so it could never be in 4, or there's no room for X and V. Okay, now for this next one, X and Y both confess. Only way to get X to confess is you could have them either here, so X confess here, or you could have them over here, X confessing here. So for that, I think the best thing to do is double the game board. Let's try these 2 orders. We have X here. X confesses. Y also confesses. Here it's more flexible where that Y could be. It could switch places with Z, but the important thing is that they must confess. Wherever you see the Y, they must confess. And then in both cases, V would be right here. So V confesses, could that be true? No, it can't be, and that's our right answer. V's always forced into this 4th spot, giving us A as the right answer. They always have to confess. Okay, if neither X nor V confess, what must be true? Okay, so there's only one way to get both X and V not to confess. That's to make this a not confess, put Z here, and then we don't know which is where, but X and V would be in these 2 not confess spots. That forces Y into the 5th day, which is a confession spot. So just looking for something that has to be true, I'd want to check this Y first, so it's because it's fixed, and then we see answer choice D, Y confessed, jumps right out at us. So pretty easy question to end the game. All right, that's the game. We'll catch you on the next one.